You look back at sci-fi movies from the 1980s and some of the stuff that got made is honestly unbelievable. There's a movie where an alien rips off someone's skin, another where mutant fishmen attack a whole town, and one that was banned just for how much carnage it had. These are the most extreme sci-fi movies from the 1980s. You want to talk about extreme sci-fi? You start with Roger Corman. He's the undisputed king of trashy exploitation knockoffs, and Galaxy of Terror is probably his most infamous entry. Forget being just another alien ripoff, this one's got way more in common with later films like Event Horizon than anything Ridley Scott did. The whole setup, a rescue mission to the planet Organthus, yes, that's really what they called it, where the master handpicks a crew to search for a missing ship. What they find is basically a series of the most nightmarish deaths Corman could come up with on a shoestring budget. This is the movie everyone remembers for that scene, the maggot attack. There's a female crew member, a giant maggot alien, and what happens is so notorious, it got the film censored and even pulled from distribution in some places. But that's not the only thing. There's a guy who has to cut off his own arm, then his own severed arm comes to life and kills him. You've got bloody impalements, eviscerations, everything covered in slime. Classic over-the-top Corman. The whole thing is soaked in graphic violence, way past what anyone expected for 1981, and that's exactly why it got cult status. It's not pretty, but you don't forget it. Corman strikes again, this time with Forbidden World, also known as Mutant, another low-budget alien knockoff. The plot's simple. A genetic experiment goes wrong, a creature starts mutating and turning victims into piles of goo. What makes this one stand out is how much it leans into the gore. There's no shame here. Practical effects everywhere, victims melting into protein sludge, and creature attacks that leave the lab coated in slime. The set is tiny. Some corridors, a couple of sleeping quarters, a sauna for the mandatory 80s nudity, and a lab. But they make it work. The atmosphere is grimy and claustrophobic. The monster looks just enough like a xenomorph to keep the lawyers away. And the soundtrack is all synths. This is not a good movie, but it's endlessly watchable if you want trashy fun. It's packed with gore and nudity and never pretends to be more than it is. A cheap, splattery ride that's just over an hour long. If you want real sci-fi horror, skip it. If you want pure, brainless B-movie excess, Forbidden World delivers. The Deadly Spawn is the definition of ultra-low-budget sci-fi splatter. This thing was made for $25,000. A bunch of friends in Jersey, a basement, and a monster built out of rubber and fake teeth. The story is as basic as it gets. A meteor hits, something crawls into a family's basement and starts eating everyone it finds. The monster grows new heads, the bodies start piling up, and the gore gets creative. Despite how amateur it looks, Deadly Spawn does not hold back. The creatures rip off skin, bite off heads, devour a group of teens at a party, and leave the screen dripping with blood and shredded body parts. There are no stars here, just a ton of heart and practical effects. The feeding scenes are as gruesome as anything you'll see in a big-budget flick. It found a second life on VHS where all the splatter fans made it a cult classic. If you want to see what true 80s DIY horror looked like, this is it. Long before anyone knew his name, Peter Jackson made Bad Taste, a New Zealand splatter comedy about aliens harvesting humans for fast food. The title says it all. This is one of the bloodiest, goofiest movies of the 80s, and Jackson clearly had a blast making it. You've got brains falling out of skulls and getting scooped back in, chainsaws through bodies, exploding sheep, even aliens drinking vomit straight from a bowl. It's a gory circus that never takes itself seriously, and people rightfully call it one of the bloodiest films in history. Jackson's style here is all splatstick, violence so extreme it becomes comedy. Every gag is bigger, messier, and more ridiculous than the last. All the effects were done at home, and every frame is full of something sticky and gross. Even though it's a joke, the sheer volume of blood and guts is legendary. Bad Taste is now considered a cult classic and one of the most over-the-top splatter films ever made. Humanoids from the Deep takes the old creature feature formula and dials it up with pure exploitation. This is Corman territory again, but now it's mutant fishmen attacking a coastal town. The monsters are the result of a DNA growth hormone experiment gone wrong, so technically it's sci-fi. But really, it's all about shocking content. Corman loaded the movie with graphic violence and nudity to the point that it crossed straight into Grindhouse. There's not much subtlety. The monsters kill men, sexually assault women, and leave a trail of mutilated bodies. You get fishermen getting their heads ripped off, faces clawed open, and a carnival massacre where the creatures just lay waste to everyone in sight. And just when you think it's over, there's a birth scene that'll make you rethink your dinner plans. The controversy over how far this one went with the gore and sexual violence got it censored in a bunch of places. It's one of the most extreme sci-fi monster movies of its era, no question. Breeders is what happens when someone sets out to make a sleazy alien flick and refuses to pull any punches. Set in New York, the whole premise is basically one long excuse for as much gore, slime, and nudity as you can fit into 80 minutes. The plot? An alien is running around Manhattan attacking and impregnating virgins as part of some intergalactic breeding plan. It's total exploitation. Scene after scene of women undressing and then getting attacked by a goo-soaked rubber suit. The effects are cheap, but they commit to the bit. You get face-splitting, chest-bursting gore, melting corpses, acid slime, and eventually the reveal of the drippy alien in all its rubber glory. It's Z-grade, no question, but the gore has real energy, and that's pretty much the only thing it delivers. Hardcore 80s schlock fans know exactly what they're in for, and Breeders delivers that. Nothing more, nothing less. If Breeders is the sleaze, Mutant Hunt is the cheese. Tim Kincaid churned this one out right after finishing Breeders. It's a straight-to-video riff on Blade Runner, except, well, riff is putting it kindly. The setup, a mad scientist named Z figures out how to turn cyborgs into killing machines and sends them out to do his dirty work. Opposite him is Matt Riker, mutant hunter for hire, with a couple of sidekicks, one of whom is literally outacted by a puppet cyborg head. Credit to Ed French for that effect because everyone else is forgettable at best. The plot is nonsense, the script is all talk, and the action is about as limp as it gets. Kincaid made a career in the B-movie gutter, and Mutant Hunt is his comfort zone. The real reason anyone puts this on? The effects are actually half decent, and the female cast at least keeps things lively. At 74 minutes, it never outstays its welcome. Honestly, that's probably the smartest thing about it. Every exploitation box set needs at least one post-apocalyptic monster flick, and The Terror Within is pure Corman late 80s sleaze. The setup is familiar. After a biochemical war, a group of survivors hides out in an underground bunker, fighting off mutated monsters that look like gargoyles. It's an alien knockoff, but way nastier in what it's willing to show. Joe Bob Briggs wasn't joking when he tallied up 17 dead bodies, a bloody fetus monster, a self-abortion, and an exploding mutant in the final act. The monster scenes and the aftermath push this one way past the line for most people. One woman gets impregnated by the creature, gives birth to something horrific, and dies in the process. Another tries a self-administered abortion to avoid the same fate. The finale involves shredding a monster in an exhaust fan, just in case you thought they'd run out of gore. It's nasty, taboo-pushing stuff, absolutely not for everyone, but that's why it stands out. There's always one movie that gets overlooked, and in the killer bug subgenre, The Nest is it. On paper, it's just another science-gone-wrong creature feature with genetically engineered cockroaches overrunning a small island. For a while, it plays it safe. Then the third act hits, and suddenly it's what the hell am I watching time. The practical effects here are pure 1980s madness. Roaches strip people to the bone, bodies fuse into grotesque hybrids, there's a human roach queen oozing everywhere, and plenty of splatter for the hardcore crowd. There's even a scene where a cat gets taken over by the bugs, straight out of The Thing. By the end, you're treated to a full body horror climax with a giant monster bursting in a wave of slime. Not many people talk about The Nest, but if you want impressive and disgusting practical effects, this one goes all in. Then there's Death Warmed Up, maybe the strangest entry on the list. The setup: a kid is hypnotized by a mad scientist to kill his parents, spends years locked away, then gets out and goes after the guy who destroyed his life. The villain, Dr. Archer Howell, runs an island asylum where he turns inmates into zombies through experimental brain surgery. The movie's all over the place: exploding heads, squibs, gore, sex, and a full-on neon 80s punk aesthetic. It got banned in Australia for extreme violence, and you can see why. 30 years later, the movie feels even more bizarre, but there's a weird energy to the whole thing. The real trivia here: Michael Hurst, who plays the lead, is the same guy who'd go on to play Iolaus in Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. That's about as far as you can get from this wild, shambolic, brain-melting VHS relic.